Today, we paint the Warhammer 40k Primarch Fulgrim. The hardest part of painting Fulgrim is the painting of the Serpent skin. I thought I could pull off the Serpent skin painting with Speedpaints and a brush pen, but I failed. Fulgrim is so unlike Mortarion and even Angron. It is not textured and detailed enough for Speedpaints. So watch and see how I fixed the Serpent skin painting to make it look good for the client.
Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my channel. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. Also, special thanks to The Army Painter for making this video possible. By the way, do check out my discount codes and affiliate links down below. It won't cost you extra and it will help the channel a lot. Fulgrim is one of our Primarchs that I had to finish within a month. Fulgrim is a commission work, and I had to find the right balance between quality and, of course, efficiency.
We start the painting of Fulgrim via sponge underpainting. I have a few videos focused on this particular underpainting technique already, so you might want to check them out. For the parts like the hair that need a solid color underpainting, I simply painted with a big flat brush. You now see in the video how I brush paint white. I start with a medium gray, then light gray, before painting with a white paint. Because of the gray color buildup, I do not need to paint white with more coats than needed. Now we have a beautiful and bright underpainting without the need to use an airbrush.
The main focus or the most time-consuming part of the painting of Fulgrim is the painting of the Serpent skin.
We start the painting with Purple Alchemy. Purple Alchemy is a very saturated color, so we had to thin it a bit with Speed Paint Medium. I thinned Purple Alchemy at around 2 parts paint and 1 part medium. Mix the Speed Paint and medium well before painting on the miniature. At this point in the painting, I have yet to try using the brush pen, so we are using a big synthetic brush at the moment. As you can see in the video, I am loading the brush with more paint than usual. I am also trying to paint faster than normal. Painting faster, loading more paint, and thinning down with medium will help me produce a good finish with the Speed Paint. Now you may ask, can you thin down Speed Paint with just water? Of course you can. However, if you thin down Speed Paint with just water, the Speed Paint will act more like a wash. The surface tension from the water will make the Speed Paint filter the raised areas less than usual. Speed Paint acting more like a wash also means that the pigments will tend to settle more in the crevices, then add color to all of the features of the surface. You want this wash-like property, but not at this point in our painting. Lastly, Speed Paint Medium slows down the drying time of Speed Paints, as you can see in the video. Once happy with Purple Alchemy, we proceed to painting with Purple Swarm. Purple Swarm is also a very saturated color, and since we are painting this color over a base color already, we need to thin it more than Purple Alchemy. I thinned Purple Swarm roughly 1:1 with Speed Paint Medium. Mix well before painting on the miniature. Now we switch to using a brush pen filled with Speed Paint Medium. You can fill the brush pen with just water. I just love using mediums too much. At some point, I need to make a new video regarding mediums. Since we thinned down Purple Swarm with Speed Paint Medium, notice how translucent it is over the miniature. You may adjust your mixture depending on the amount of control and coverage that you want. I must say that I am really happy with this brush pen thing. Now we do another round of sponging with white paint. This allows us to create more volume and contrast to the large surfaces of Fulgrim without the need to paint via layering. Layering will give you more control, but it is very time-consuming to layer towards the highlights at this point in the painting. If Fulgrim was a personal piece, or much more a contest piece, I would be layering towards the highlights after the Speed Paint base colors. But this is a commissioned work, thus I need to paint as efficiently as I can. In hindsight, using the airbrush will be much more efficient, but I was simply not in the mood to use an airbrush. Now you can see in the video that I am painting Purple Swarm again. This time, I did not thin down Purple Swarm with Speed Paint Medium. I realized that painting with the brush pen allows me to achieve a good finish without thinning down very saturated speed paint colors. The brush pen also allows me to paint with speed paints at a much slower pace. Since I do not need to worry about edges drying, that looks very bad on large surfaces. Now we add flesh tones. We start by painting Crusader Skin. Crusader Skin has very weak midtones, but I like starting with this color just to get the feel of painting the skin of any miniature. As expected, Crusader Skin was weak. So now, we are painting with Aged Hide to add more contrast and color to the flesh parts. Now we go back to painting with Purple Alchemy. This time though, we paint Purple Alchemy without thinning with Speed Paint Medium. We are painting Purple Alchemy at full intensity with a brush pen. The brush pen allows us to blend the edges with very little effort. As the speed paint runs out in the brush pen, we are practically just painting with medium, thus eventually blending the still wet speed paint on the miniature. Like I mentioned earlier, I am really liking the brush pen with speed paints. Now, we paint a base coat of lava orange on the tail of Fulgrim. The base coat will serve as our mid-tone. This is sort of a quick experiment if you can use the same brush pen with the regular acrylic paint. And it worked, but it was a bit weird. The brush pen constantly thins down the lava orange as I paint, so the coverage gets weaker as I paint the tail of Fulgrim. Anyways, after a couple of thin coats of lava orange, I then painted the tail with Fire Giant Orange. Now we do a bit of dry brushing with my Foxbite Goat Hair Dry Brush. The Army Painter Masterclass Dry Brush is also goat hair and will give you a similar effect. I dry brushed the tail and the flesh areas before another round of speed paints. Now we paint Aged Hide on the tail and the flesh areas again. The dry brushing added some quick highlights, then this round of Aged Hide will give more contrast and deeper tones to the crevices. You may apply Aged Hide in multiple layers, letting each layer dry before applying on top. Now we paint Blood Red. Blood Red is a very saturated warm red color. Since we are using a brush pen, we do not need to thin this down with medium. Now we have a very nice base for the highlights. The colors are solid and very saturated due to the multiple layers of speed paints applied on the miniature. I wanted more bluish tones in the other areas of the serpent skin. So to quickly achieve this, I did a quick pass of dry brushing again, then painted a generous amount of dark blue tone wash on some areas. The wash shifted the bottom areas to a darker and bluer tone. Now, to finish off the painting of the serpent skin, we paint some highlights. We shift to using my Foxbite Kolinsky Arrowhead brush, and we start the highlighting with Pixie Pink. Now, this part of the painting process is the most time-consuming part of the painting of Fulgrim. If you are just going for a tabletop finish, you can do without this highlighting. But since this is a commissioned work, of course we have to push the quality of the painting to a higher level. Notice that the paint is thinner than usual. I thinned down the paint to what I like to call a fat glaze. The paint is a bit more translucent, so that I can create more subtle transitions from the base color. The thinning is roughly 2 parts paint and 1 part glaze medium. Now we do final highlights with Weird Elixir. Pink paints, similar to flesh-colored paints, are brighter than they look on the bottle. This is just the weird nature of these colors. Weird Elixir was thinned roughly 1:1 with glaze medium. This made this color a bit more translucent, allowing me to build up subtle transitions as the highlight strokes overlap and get brighter. Apparently, I was not able to film the highlighting of the back and lower parts of the serpent skin, but it was simply highlighting with the brighter colors from the deep green-blue triad. You see in the video right now that I am highlighting with Pixie Pink on the lower shade areas and sides of the serpent skin. This helps smooth down the edges of the transitions of the brighter pinks on the miniature. Now we are done with the serpent skin painting.
Now, before my final thoughts, a huge thanks to all my patrons at Patreon, Hajime Model Studio, and of course, the Army Painter for making this video possible. So the painting of the 4 primarchs within a month is not really speed painting. I think it's fairly slow if you refer it to speed painting, but it's pretty fast because these primarchs are very detailed. I'm not really sure if the painting of the 4 primarchs is fast or slow. Is it speed painting, smart painting, efficient painting? But I was happy that I was able to finish it within a month.
Similar to the Angron video, I decided to omit the painting of the cloth, armor, gems, and even the wings, as this video will be too long. Focusing on just the serpent skin painting in this video allowed me to explain the painting better. Painting with the dry brush, sponge, washes, and speed paints is very relaxing and low focus. However, the drying time of painting with speed paints and washes can be a bit time-consuming. Let these paints air dry for around 10 or so minutes, and you can speed up the drying time with a hairdryer. Allowing these paints to air dry for a few minutes is crucial, as the paints are still settling in the crevices. It is important to note that layering many translucent paints like speed paints on top of each other may result to a muddy finish if you are using the wrong colors. A simple guideline to layering translucent paints is to use analogous colors on top of each other. Analogous colors are simply colors beside each other in the color wheel. As mentioned in the intro, I felt that I failed to achieve good serpent skin painting with just the speed paints and the sponge. I thought before I started painting that I could pull off good painting without highlighting too much. But as you saw in this video, I had to spend a bit of time highlighting in the latter part to push the quality of the painting. I had to stipple some highlights on the upper parts and build up translucent layers of pinks on the front to dramatically improve the overall finish. I enjoy layering, glazing, and highlighting. But I tried to create a good painting without using too many time-consuming methods. Anyways, this video, much like my other videos with speed paints, showed that the more low-focus methods of painting, like dry brushing, sponging, washes, and painting with speed paints, are great ways to jumpstart any miniature painting project. At the end of the day, the amount of time you commit to cleaning up mistakes, refining details, and highlighting is a sure way to improve your final results.
That's it, Pansit. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Until next video, guys. Bye! If you like this video, you might like to check out these other videos.